is streaming, so I will project, but our listeners online will be able to hear us. Welcome, everybody. My name is Zach Eichholz. I'm the Chief Resilience Manager for the City of Cape Canaveral. And I'd like to thank Kay Jackson, one of our council members, for helping to organize this event with the Blue World Research Institute to talk about right whales. I think you hear a lot about the endangered ecosystems within things like the Indian River Lagoon and the Banana River Lagoon, and rightfully so. Those are very troubled ecosystems that we're doing a lot to protect. But I think a lot of people forget sometimes about the Atlantic Ocean and what's in there too. It's a big ocean filled with a lot of cool things and a lot of things that need our help. One of them being the right whale. So I'm really happy that we're having this. I was talking to Julie, and she says that there's only one other city in Brevard that did something like this. It was in the Atlantic, and that was for municipal staff member training. But I don't think we've really done it with like a public setting. So this is really cool. And I appreciate you coming here, and you can tell everybody what you learned and spread the word. So with that, I'll hand it over to Joel and Julie. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Zach.
If anybody asks any questions, just reiterate it into the mic so that we can capture it online.
Great. Yes, we're always happy to do these. We love that cities are doing this, and your city is doing some great stuff. You're doing great stuff. So thank you. Thanks for having us. Okay. So, I'll start here. So, this is us. We are the Right Whale Sighting Network. It's Julie Albert right here in the front. She has been the coordinator of this program for 25 years. And she's got a lot of history. She's a marine biologist. She knows a whole lot about this species and their history down here. It's quite interesting, and it is, like Zach said, thinking about all this stuff around here, learning about right whales or sea turtles, it really adds to living here. It adds to the value of living here, so that we're a calving grounds. We're a nesting grounds for sea turtles. We're also a calving grounds for North Atlantic right whales. So I call them our whales or our turtles because they're born here. So it's quite interesting. And Julie took over this program after it was started by citizens in Cape Canaveral. This is a cool story that, Cocoa Beach, sorry, very close to Cape Canaveral, that were concerned about the port and vessel traffic, and they knew that the whales were here. They would see them. They lived on oceanfront condos, so they started a network of calling when they saw a whale. They would call the port and alert the vessels, and that's how this program started. And our main existence is to supplement a network from the north that is, they fly planes every day looking for these whales, so they know where they are. They're critically endangered. We're going to get into all that stuff. But down here, it's so important because if you see a whale in the winter, and probably the most important takeaway of all the stuff you'll learn, and I'll repeat this a couple times, but the most important thing to take away here is that we live in part of their only known calving grounds. So it's from North Carolina through Florida, but every winter we get several whales down here, you'll see, and it's usually a mom and a calf. So it's not just a whale, it is a mom and her calf, typically. So that's how this program got started. And we're going to give you an update of the whales this season, their current populations, and also optional volunteer training. So this slide kind of quickly tells you what that means, which there's no real commitment from you other than going through this talk and understanding a little bit about the animals. And again, we supplement the aerial survey team. So from St. Augustine north through North Carolina, every good weather day, they fly an airplane over looking for moms and calves. They put a dot on a map, and they also alert the nearby vessels to, hey, watch out. Part of this class is learning, or this presentation is learning the laws, why we need people reporting, for you to stand by. If you do get to the end of this, is a little test you can take. It's very easy. We will help you. But you can take this test and become part of our network. You'll be a whale spotter. And then you'll be on standby for if we get a whale that we verify, you get a phone call so that you can come help us. Because we need knowledgeable people to talk to all the other people that show up when we have whales. And we have identification work to do. We have drone work to do. We're looking at scarring or maybe an entanglement. or health, all these different things. And we're also on the phone with FWC, or Julie might be on the phone with the port. There's a lot of stuff going on. So the more people that understand this stuff and can help talk to the public, especially city leaders, that's very good. So very needed. Basically, you're helping educate. And like I said, it adds to the value of living here, knowing about these animals. So, okay, we'll get into it. This is what we are talking about. It is the North Atlantic right whale. Its scientific name is Ebalina glacialis. And it's funny, I always like to point out scientific names because they sound so technical, but really it means true whale of the glacial waters or icy whale. That's really all that means. But they are called the North Atlantic right whale because they live in the North Atlantic, which is from the equator north. Their general appearance, they're all black. They may have a little white belly. They might be all black. They might have a little white belly and occasionally a lot of white belly. But I put it on here twice because this is one of the most important aspects of this whale and why they get in so much trouble with boats is they have no dorsal fin. So when you're looking at that photo and you look at the top of that whale, they're usually floating at the surface and there's no dorsal fin sticking out, so you know that they're there. So that's why they're so vulnerable to vessel strikes. They have white patches on their head, so it's not skin and it's not barnacles. We're going to tell you what those are shortly. But they're callosities, which comes from the word callus. So think about when you get a callus on your hand, it's kind of raised up dead skin. That's what these whales have, and I'll show you a close-up view of that. And there's little crab-like organisms that live on that raised up dead skin that gives us their ID. And I'll talk about that more. Black tail on both sides, and black paddle-shaped pectoral flippers. They also have this very big jawline. So if you see the front of the head there, they have that really high jawline, and that is because these are baleen whales, and big plates of baleen, which, Julie, will you hold that up because I don't want to get away from the microphone. And for people recording this, if you look up baleen, you can see, because we're going to show in person what this looks like. This is real baleen from a real whale that is deceased, and those plates, if you look at Julie, this is the orientation of the plate in the whale's mouth. So Julie could stand inside the whale's mouth and hold her hands straight up in the air with their mouth closed. This is the 5th largest whale on the planet. And again, I repeat it, we live in their calving grounds. They give birth and nurse their young right here. So it's super interesting. Those plates work like in place of teeth, but these are filter feeder whales, so they don't need to bite or chew anything. So they open their mouth, their food comes in, which their food is a tiny zooplankton, and they close their mouth and squeeze the water out through those plates. They have about 250 plates on each side, and the little zooplankton gets stuck in the hairs. They swallow them down, and that's how they eat. So very, very interesting. But that's why they have that high jawline. If you're in a boat and a whale pops its head up, one of the first things you'll see is that high jawline. And if you see that, then you know that's a right whale. These are identification markers. So, is there a whale in this photo? Yes, there is. But if I didn't have this slide to show you and you're on your boat cruising around, would you notice that whale? And this is also a very nice day, pretty flat, calm day. This is what they can look like at the surface. If they're not sticking a pectoral flipper out or a tail out, which a lot of times mom is just hanging at the surface. She's not eating, she may be nursing, so they're very hard to see. But yes, there's no dorsal fin. But there's a 50-foot whale under the surface there. This is what they look like when they do stick their pectoral flipper out of the water. Again, they are very large, and they have a big paddle-shaped pectoral flipper that's black on both sides. So black is another thing to remember. That color is unique to North Atlantic right whales. There's another view of the same pectoral flipper. It's just at an angle, so it may not always be squared up to you, but just if you see a shape like that that's black, that's a right whale. And I'm telling you this so you can identify right whales from other animals that we have. We have plenty of other animals out here. So this is what their tail flukes look like. Again, black and smooth on both sides. They're up to 18 feet across. Again, the 5th largest whale on the planet. They have the deep V notch in the middle of the tail flukes that looks like a perfect V, and it's all smooth. And their trailing edges are all smooth compared to other whales. This is what if you see this big black smooth tail sticking out, that is a right whale. Here is their head. This is 3 different whales, and these are the patches that are on their head that we use to ID each individual. So as I said, they're raised up, calloused, dead skin, which is like keratin. It forms different patterns, and think of it as a fingerprint. So if you took your fingerprint and imagine it 100x larger, and it's black, and then there's these white crab-like critters that crawl all over your fingerprint, and because they're white and your finger is black, the white contrast on the black shows us their calloused skin or raised dead skin, which is unique to each individual, and that is how we ID each and every individual. So when we come out, we take photos or drone photos to get that pattern, and that's how we're talking to FWC or New England Aquarium, whoever, it's usually FWC, and that's how we know who they are. And then at the bottom of the photo, it just gives you each spot has a name, like chin callosity, bonnet, lip patch, peninsular, combing. Each one of those is a pattern that's used to develop the entire pattern of the whale. And you can look all of these up yourself on the New England Aquarium website if you like. It's called the North Atlantic Right Whale Catalog. So what are these white-pink callosity patches? We passed it around already, the little white crab-like critters, and the Zoom or online people, I have photos for you in just a moment. But you can see that black raised dead skin. This is a zoomed-in photo, and there are thousands of these crabs. They're not crabs, but they are crab-like. And that's what they look at. That on the right is what they look like zoomed in. That's just one individual. And on the left, there's thousands of them inhabiting that dead, raised up skin. Are you itchy yet? They're crawling around on the head? Yeah. So here's another photo, and you can really see the detail. I love these photos because I took these photos, so yeah.
Those are wonderful.
If you have questions during the presentation, I'm totally fine to yes, ma'am.
What are they doing there? If it's dead.
Great question, yes. So they live on that whale's head. They're not known to live anywhere else, and they live off of the whale's dead skin that's sloughing off. So, it's known to be a mutualistic relationship. They're not known to be parasitic. They seem to both benefit. They keep the whale's fingerprint, if you will, nice and clean and keep that dead skin trimmed off. Also, there's so much crazy science about these. They're called cyamids. And this part blows me away. This is one of the reasons. I'm a volunteer, by the way. Julie's actually the marine biologist. I love the crazy stuff about all these wild animals, so I just go down rabbit holes with them. And you could read a lot about cyamids and get pretty crazy into it. First of all, their color, which if you see there, you've got white, yellow, and pink. That color can give us an idea of the whale's health. So as the whale gets, maybe it's entangled, maybe it's not eating, had a vessel strike, the color of the crabs or the cyamids changes, which can give us an idea of how healthy the whale is. I'll tell you more in a second. This is a calf. So this is a calf you can see their callosity pattern because they're not loaded with cyamids yet, but they do have a few cyamids there, and they get that from mom. If you get to see a mom and a calf, or if you saw the video earlier, they roll around on each other. They do a whole bonding thing, and the cyamids transfer from mom to the calf. And then they start having generations of these crab-like critters on each whale. And they're using the generational age of the cyamid to figure out the age of the whales. They're starting to figure all that stuff out. So You don't have to read all the little words. That's mostly just a photo credit because this is so interesting. But multiple species of siamid are on one whale. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I don't mean to
It's okay.
interrupt you or anything, but it has to do with identifying the whale. Do they come back year after year, the moms? The same moms want to have babies down here?
So yes, it's typically a mom won't come back every single year because she needs to. It takes a lot out of mom to give birth and nurse her. She doesn't eat while she's down here. She has to recoup. So that's part of their population issue. They used to come back every couple of years, 2 or 3 years, but because they have a lot of challenges with finding food and with getting entangled, it takes so much energy out of them. They're not reproducing now for much longer, 10, 12, 13 years. They used to come back every couple of years. We get different moms every single season, though. And we get males, we get single, not just moms come down here, but mostly moms and calves, because this is, again, the calving ground. I'll say that a bunch because that's, you always remember one thing from a presentation. This is the right whale calving ground. That's the most important part of this whole thing. So anyway, those photos you can see how they dig into the skin and hold on. This is also colors that are indicating this whale was not in good shape. And I told you about the generational age thing. So, okay, you saw some right whale stuff. Now, this is comparing them to humpback whales, which we also have here at the same time. They all migrate at the same time, just like great white sharks, same migration pattern, but they're typically farther offshore. Right whales are really close to shore. But that tail fluke photo, it's not all black. It doesn't really have a strong, deep V notch. It does not really have the smooth trailing ends. So that's not a right whale. That's a humpback whale. The next photo is a dorsal fin. Right whales do not have a dorsal fin. These are things you'll see if it's a humpback whale. Then the photo with it breaching, with it out of the water there, you can see the long, skinny pectoral flippers, and they're white. And then remember, the right whale is short, paddle-shaped, and black. And then the throat pleats, those lines, are so the bottom jaw can expand out like a brown pelican does. That is also not on a right whale. So if you see those lines, and then you're not seeing a right whale. What's the difference? The right whales are critically endangered, and they need extra protection. Of course, we don't want anything to happen to any of the whales, but things get a lot more serious when it's a right whale. So here's a side-by-side view. There's a paddle-shaped pectoral flipper of a right whale compared to a long, skinny, white pectoral flipper of a humpback whale. Here's the tail flukes. All smooth black is the right whale, and the humpback whale has the white and not smooth trailing-edged tail. A blow, this is the other thing. If it's a whale, it's going to breathe, and you're going to see them blow. With a right whale, they also have a unique blow. They have these two blowholes. So when you're looking at the photo, on the left side there's two whales in this photo. On the left side is totally open blowholes. That whale is inhaling. And on the right, that whale is just exhaling. So when they exhale, this warm, moist air comes out of their lungs. And because they have two blowholes oriented the way they do and shaped the way they are, it looks like a big V if you're at the right angle. If you're straight ahead or behind the whale, you'll see a really strong V. So if you see a V blow, that's a right whale. Believe it or not, you can identify whales by their blow. If you see a sperm whale, I had to see this for myself for the first time a couple years ago. A sperm whale is off and to the left. Orcas have one blow. They're like a big dolphin. They're teethed whales. They only have one blowhole. So depending how crazy you want to get into it, you can actually identify the whales from their blow or get pretty close. This is what a humpback blow looks like. Right whales are bigger than humpback whales by at least 10 feet, 10 to 15 feet. So humpback whales have a smaller blow. And they do have two blowholes. They're baleen whales, but their two blowholes are not as big and not as separated as they are in a right whale. So it looks like a poof of air instead of a nice strong V. So what kind of whale is that? Yes. Yep, dorsal fin. That's a humpback whale. Sometimes Julie gets calls all the time for things that are not whales. But when you're on the beach or you're This is a zoomed-in photo of, we get scoter ducks in the winter. Lots of migration with birds is happening. So it's not uncommon to see 1,000 or 2,000 ducks out in the ocean. And when they're tightly packed together, they might look like a whale. So Julie got a phone call, sent someone out. Someone went out, they were looking, and they said, "Oh, Julie, nope, that's not a whale." And she said, "How'd you know?" "Well, your whale just took flight." So, yep, she's gotten rocks called in. She's had all kinds of interesting stuff.
How far out? I mean, I've lived here a while, walked the beach, never saw one of them.
It's super rare to see. I've lived here my whole life, and the only reason I see them is because I'm on the network. Not my whole life, but since 1989, most of my whole life. And I've only seen one twice before getting into this program. So they're very close to shore. Typically they are right at the surf line, especially during the day. But yeah, there's not many left. And down here in Brevard, we get a few every year. And for you to be on that beach at that time to see one, it is very rare. Super special if you do see one. But people see them every single winter, and people also miss them every single winter. And people that see them call them in, we run out and we verify it's a right whale. So this is something else we have going off of our coast. And another thing that's very interesting, Julie and I started volunteering with this program. So any ideas or guesses what this is? Could be two sharks swimming in unison, practicing for the I can never remember the name of that. What's the swimming at the same time? Synchronized swimming, yeah. So that's all normal guesses that we usually get. Two dolphins or two sharks swimming next to each other. That is a manta ray. We are realizing that we are also potentially critical habitat for manta rays, oceanic 30-foot tip-to-tip manta rays. So I went out a week ago and flew in a helicopter and counted. I had 44. Julie went out this morning, had 11, and a leatherback. Wow. So, yeah, if you want to get into that, look up the Florida Manta Project by Jessica Pate at the Marine Megafauna Foundation. It's super interesting, and she's doing a multi-year study to verify we are an adult habitat and a critical habitat for juveniles. She's collecting some really good data. And they come back every year also. The same, you've seen them, yeah. And they can be very close to shore. So they have the two black, they're black on the top, white on the bottom. That's a form of counter shading. And when you see their tips out of the water, if you see a white on one side and black on the other, and they're in unison, that's a manta ray.
And we've seen them jump out of the water.
Yeah. Yes, I had one swim under my kayak, and I have a 9-foot kayak, and it was wider than my kayak. It was quite crazy. So this is back to right whales. This is where they live. This is their entire range, and it is the entire North American coast. So scientists have given them another nickname, the urban whale, because they share the urban coast with us. It's where we fish. It's where we do our all of our whether it's recreational, commercial, construction. They share that with us, which is why we run into them so often. We'll get into that. So anyway, the north up in Canada is their feeding grounds. It used to be in the Gulf of Maine, but that is changing. The Gulf of Maine, if you are, that's a very popular place, and it used to be one of the biggest fishing areas, commercial fishing areas in the world. It still is, but the water has changed rapidly. In 10 years, it's increased its average temperature 10 degrees. And a lot of the fisheries have haddock and cod, they were severely interrupted. They had a 2% catch, I think in 2009 or somewhere around there. So everything is moving farther north, including lobster, including whale food. So all these animals are moving farther north. So that means they're crossing more shipping lanes. They're going to go where they find food. They're going to swim until they find food, and that's up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence or Prince Edward, up in Canada. So I said all that. So now they're calving grounds down here in Florida. So if you look at the United States, where that pink coloring is, it's really from North Carolina down through Florida. And if you take the test later, this is important to know, they are known to go all the way south of Florida, around into the Straits of Florida and into the Gulf of Mexico, and even have gone over to Texas. And then they follow our coast along the Gulf, and then they've come back. So they don't only stay on the east coast of Florida or stop at a certain point. Most of them, though, are in that pink area, but that pink area is also slightly shifting north. We're getting more dots on maps farther north. So their calving season, this is also maybe a test question, November 15th through April 15th. That has also shifted it a little bit earlier. And we're noticing that with lots of animals. Our sea turtles are doing a similar thing. So there's changes going on. It's why data collection is so important. We can understand things better when we see where they are, when they are, all that kind of thing. So that's about it on that slide. So what's their latest population as of 2022? These numbers take a little while to crunch, but right now their total population is about 356 total animals, total individuals. That's all that we have left. We only have about 70 breeding females. Of those 356, 85% of them have been entangled in fishing gear at least once. 50% of them have been entangled multiple times or more than once. And when we say multiple times, there's some that have been entangled 7, 8 times. We have more males than females. They are not living out their natural lifespan. They're getting, their name is the right whale because they used to be the right whale to hunt. Now, I am sorry, a little bit of this is sad, and I don't want to make you sad, but this is the realities, and they are our whales since they're born here. That's what I call them. So I want us to know we want you to know what's really going on. So we can't really hide any of this stuff, but they're not living out their natural lifespan because we're killing them on accident with vessel strikes, fishing gear entanglement, and climate change is definitely affecting them. So, and then longer calving intervals from not being able to find food, traveling farther, and getting entangled so often, they don't have the energy to reproduce. So their calving interval went from 3-ish years to 10 or 13 years now. And it only took 2 decades for that to happen. So if you add all that together, and they have a low birth rate and a high death rate, they are right now predicted to go extinct biologically, meaning not able to reproduce themselves and keep a population by 2035. And this year was a rough year. That number, I highly doubt it's going to get better. This year we've had a rough year. So far, we've had 69 whales in the southeast U.S., 69 total individuals from North Carolina through Florida. Remember, the calving ground is the southeast U.S., which we are part of, but it is North Carolina through Florida. The great, amazing news, the one super hopeful thing, and if you take the logical number, if you take the logical science and data, you have a certain number of moms. We know how many times they've calved over the last 10 years. We should have only have had about 5 or 6 new calves this year. We have 19.
I just learned this morning there might be a 20th.
Oh, wow.
We're trying to verify.
Wow. This is how we verify calves. If you see a whale and call it in, like Pilgrim, the video I showed before we started, we got the call December 30th, 2022, to run out. Some beachgoer saw what they thought was a whale. We ran out and got photos, confirmed with the head shots of the callosity patterns with the cyamids on top. With FWC, confirmed it was Pilgrim, which was not known to be a mom until we found her, until some beachgoer saw her. That's why this network is so important. Plus, it's a mom with it's her first calf ever. She was 10 years old, I believe, and had her first calf. And then we alerted the port because they were right there heading south. So super important in this network, and being a spotter, it's very important. But it's great news we have 19 calves and maybe 20. That would be absolutely amazing. unfortunately, we also have a lot of death this year. We've had 4 dead in the southeast. 3 of those were brand new calves from the 19. And the worst part for us, I definitely had a connection to this whale, and her Pilgrim, the one that I just was talking about, I helped bring drones into the program, sort of, and I do a lot of the. I guess I did. Well, Jameson has plenty of drone work, but at the time we were with it. Anyway, yeah. So with drones, we can learn a whole lot from these animals, and when we got her identification, we also got a bunch of behavior, and this calf was rolling around upside down. We verified she was a she at around 6 weeks old, which is very rare, and it's the first time in the sighting network's 25-year history that we sexed a calf. And sometimes you aren't able to know what the sex is until she comes back with a calf 10 years later. So it's super important. I was very happy about that. We were super happy, excited. A lot of other things with that whale, but unfortunately, she came back this year and visited us February 3rd, and I recorded the last known video of her alive because a few days later she was hit and killed by a vessel. She was spotted in Melbourne Beach February 3rd. She was found, her carcass was found, I believe, on the 11th or 13th. 13th, yeah. Her carcass was found on the 13th in Savannah, Georgia. But she had already been dead for 5 to 7 days. And they'll get more, when we get the necropsy reports, they'll give us more details, but that's what we know. That's the preliminary. We went to the necropsy, we saw cracked skull, an obvious hit from a vessel. So. No, that's the 4 right there. Yeah. We had 2 other calves. One calf, the first calf of the season, Juno's calf, was run over by a small a small vessel. They can tell that by the propeller cut size, depth, pitch, so you can figure out what size propeller, and then you can figure out what size vessel. She was run over. I'm sorry, I don't know if she was a she. I keep thinking Pilgrim's calf. But this first calf of the season, found in November off of South Carolina, had propeller cuts already. She lived for a couple of months. They thought her wounds were mortal. She gave us all a lot of hope because she was growing through those wounds. Unfortunately, she succumbed to those wounds just a couple weeks ago. And last year, the FWC escorting yep. a right whale and a calf last year. And that was pretty cool. And it was so close. It was, between the channel and the beach. So you could see it clearly. Yep. Yeah, you can totally see them. And it was so nice to see them being escorted. And you know how they got there? Someone called in and spotted it? From our network. Someone calls our network, and that's what it exists for. Julie gets the call, and then we verify, and then she's on the phone with FWC and everybody else, and depending who that whale is, it can get really, really interesting. We had Juno this year, Juno's calf, that was the first one. We have a thermal drone with a thermal camera that we were hoping to learn how to measure scarring and healing. So with a thermal camera, you can see different coloring with scarring and trying to learn how that all works, and I'm trying to learn. So I have that drone ready, and we were hoping to be able to use that. But it all starts with calling that hotline, and then whatever happens after that depends who it is, and protecting them is the number one thing. And that's how she's on the phone with FWC, and that's how they get a boat out there so quickly. I forgot I'm supposed to repeat the questions. So, call the network if you see a whale. That's the most important part. Okay. So, current threats. We know their current threats. It's the same threats they've had for decades. Their number one cause of death is entanglement in fishing gear, commercial fishing gear. Usually it's lobster and crab gear. This is known very well. The gear has been taken off these animals We know very well what the gear is. The number 2 cause of death is vessel strikes. And these 2 causes of death are like 50, 51, 49. And the reason entanglements are so bad is because the whale can be entangled for 6 months, can be entangled for a year. All that energy is taken out of that whale. They cannot reproduce, so it has multiplying effects on the population. A vessel strike usually kills the whale fairly quickly. The third threat, and we're not sure where to place this, if it's the number 1 cause or the number 3 cause, but it is definitely causing them issue. It's climate change, and specifically the rate at which climate is changing and the rate at which we humans are contributing to it. It is really affecting the ocean. If you haven't seen any of the data with how hot the ocean is getting, the ocean absorbs our carbon dioxide that we're pumping out. When we drill into the ground and take fossilized carbon and then burn it, we are releasing carbon dioxide and other things into our atmosphere, into our air that would normally be locked down into the planet. So when we do that, we're altering our atmosphere at such a fast rate. The ocean absorbs a lot of that. It's becoming more acidic. It's changing where all these animals go. It's changing where their food is. It's changing. Massive economies are being affected. Fisheries are being massively affected. Like I said about the cod, the lobster fisheries. Massachusetts lobster has shrunk because there's just not as many lobster left. They're all moving north. It's predicted that our main lobster will be caught in Canada in 20 years from now. The number 1 is entanglement. So these are some sad photos. There's a few of these I'll warn you about, but this is what it looks like. They get entangled, and it's a slow, horrible death. This whale on the right, luckily, looks crazy entangled, and it was, but they got out of it themselves. And that stuff that's bent out, that's all hairy, that's the baleen we were holding up earlier. So this is not traditional. You'll hear people say it's traditional lobster gear. Traditional lobster gear is wooden traps and natural fiber ropes. And whales 50 years ago would smash those to pieces. They would not be entangled very long. But now we use very strong plastic rope, steel traps, and trawls. So it's many traps on one line. And these animals are nowhere. They cannot break this stuff. It's very, very strong. Here's some other entanglements. This photo on the left is typical because these whales, they're going forward. They can't really go backwards. They go forward, and when they're feeding, they open their mouth wide and they swim through the entire water column, hopefully getting food. But unfortunately, if there's lines in the water connected to traps, that rope goes in their mouth, and then they don't know what that is. They spin to try and get it off of them, and that just wraps them all up in it more. So the photo on the right is a whale that had been entangled for many years, I believe 10 years. His name was Kingfisher. He visited about every single year he came down here. And he was a favorite of one of our FWC people. And his pectoral flipper, you can see it growing around the entanglement. So again, I don't want to make you sad, but this is reality, and you're not going to see this unless you're shown pictures, because you're just not, this is not stuff that's easy to see.
Well, why can't they make the ropes and the cages for the lobsters? Is it because edible or breakable easy? Because the whales were eating all their lobster, and the lobster fishermen.
These whales don't eat lobster, but yeah, that's actually a good point, and they have done some of that. Some of the regulations have been to put weaker rope in, which I have an example of that actually.
And what made them switch in the first place?
This is lobster rope. This is rope. This is rope called a South Shore sleeve. It was designed specifically for that purpose, so that if a whale, we're passing around rope, we're passing around lobster rope that is pretty much unbreakable, and then rope that was designed by fishermen to break at a certain point, about 1,700 pounds, I believe, because if a whale gets entangled, they used to be able to break it free. But They weren't really doing this. The increase or making the lobster gear stronger wasn't in an effort. It had nothing to do with the whales, really. It had more to do with the efficiency of fishing. And if you watch on Discovery Channel and watch the crab fishery and see I forget the name of the show at the moment, but they're big, giant steel round traps and big, you need strong rope attached to those things. Also, you're pulling it up with a hauler, a hydraulic hauling machine, so it has to be really strong. So in our effort to get really good at fishing, we increase the risk to the whales quite a bit. So, sorry?
We're running out of fish. Good job.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't make sense.
all that stuff is, we try to do what we can where we can. And so we work with the fishers to try and get them to use gear that, I'm going to show you an example of that, of using gear that will be better for the whales. But ending fishing is, many of us would like that or would like to talk about that, but it's not realistic. I don't think it's probably not going to, the amount of money and food, it is a food source, it's a protein. We do eat it a lot more than we used to. It's kind of available all year, everywhere now. Not in the United States anyway, in first world countries. But some countries live off of fish because that's one of their only proteins. So it's a complex topic, and that's a whole nother. We want to save the whales for sure, and we want to prevent all this suffering and death. And you pick your battles, and we've worked with fishermen and become friends with them, and none of them want to kill a whale, and they all love. I wish, I don't want to catch fish, but I wish I could live on the ocean. It is such a beautiful place to be, and that's every single person. We went out with commercial fishermen, and you go out before sunrise, you're cruising out and see sunrise, see the birds, see the dolphins. It is such an amazing place to be, and they're not criminals, they're not mean, they're just they can have opinions against some regulations, and there's a saying I would say, it's not my saying. This is it's hard to make a man understand something when his salary depends upon him not understanding it. When your only knowledge is fishing, and you're on a 4th, 5th generation lobster boat, to them ending fishing would be just not even. And the money and energy, we can't even get the small stuff in place because of how powerful these lobbies are. But
Well, plus you have the international community coming over here and fishing just like what they did with the grouper. And they fish, so much, our grouper, to where the season now is so short because they, took all of our grouper coming from other, Asian countries and stuff. So, and we don't have any control over it,
yeah, fishing's a difficult topic. It's a complex topic. One good thing is the United States of America has some of the best management practices in the world. You could say they do have the best management, and we work with Europe and Australia, and we all collectively try to improve, and we do improve. And the one thing that bothers me a lot is undermining groups like NOAA, undermining science. When we have a lot of people that don't trust groups like NOAA or FWC or science, and in reality, they're the ones that manage the fisheries or help manage the fisheries. And that's a important. I have to move on because this still got some. Yeah, different presentation. But I hear you totally. Yes. Okay, this is us. We had a whale come down here a couple years ago named Cottontail. He was 9 years old. He had been entangled for over a year. This is Blue World Research Institute. Jameson Smith, who's the chief scientist. He's an amazing guy, very knowledgeable, been working in this field a long time. He was a large whale disentanglement specialist at NOAA for many years, and now he runs BWRI, and this is us on his boat. He is the one that has that line out, which had a grapple at the end, and that grapple hooked to the line that the whale was trailing. So the whale is entangled in line. There's nowhere to attach anything to a whale. So he hooked it to the line, and then you can see the green buoy in the front of the bow there, right behind him. That's a telemetry buoy or a satellite tracking buoy, because this was about 5 o'clock at night in February, so it was almost dark, and we needed to track that whale. We were taking photographs, because you can't just go out there and disentangle a whale. You have to see, where's the rope at? Is it deeply embedded? What's the safest way to get this off the whale? So that's what we were doing. Unfortunately, the whale was within days of dying, and that transmitter stopped 24 hours later, and the carcass was found a few days later off of South Carolina. It made Shark Week, and the story was not told well. I turned it off. It was very upsetting because they showed how all these great white sharks were eating this whale, and almost like this is an amazing natural thing to witness or get on film. They didn't mention that this whale died at the hands of humans. This is not natural at all. It was an entangled whale, suffered for a year, finally succumbed to his injuries or his entanglement. So what's been done? Okay, so here's where we get into the stuff we were just talking about. So when you have a trawl of traps, that means you'll have multiple traps connected to one line, and in between each trap would be a line that used to float. So that's a potential place for animals to get entangled. They got rid of that and made them use sinking lines. So all the fishermen had to take those lines off, put sinking lines on, trying to reduce the risk. The reduced breaking strength rope that I just passed around, they use those. They also use like swivels that break away. They also have closed fisheries, and that is continuing to happen and will happen because these animals are going extinct, and NOAA is sued to do something about it. NOAA's the ones that regulate the oceans and the animals in them, and they're bound by the Endangered Species Act, which is very important. That's about the only thing that gives us any way to save these animals, including our turtle, many animals. Endangered Species Act and the Marine Mammal Protection Act. We need to keep those strong. We need to make sure we vote for people that are supportive of those two laws, because those laws have been weakened recently. They're coming back now, but it's very important who we vote for. They want to get rid of the Endangered Species Act. It holds up a lot of money for some. There's something called ropeless fishing, which I'm going to show you another photo of in a second, but this is a way, so all these traps are on the bottom of the seafloor, and they have a line going to the surface with a buoy. So the trap isn't the problem, it's the line in the water column. So imagine the floor here is the seafloor and the ceiling is the surface, and there's whales swimming through here, and they're essentially swimming through millions of end lines, they're called. If you've ever been to Maine and go on a boat, you will see buoys everywhere. Those are lobster trap buoys, and that's the risk to the whale, those lines in the water column. So the Navy invented ropeless or pop-up on-demand gear, which gets rid of those end lines, gets rid of those buoys, keeps it down with the traps so that the water column is free, and when you're ready to pull your gear up, you hit a button, it sends a sonar signal down, releases your buoy, and it comes up. So I'll show you a photo of that. That's been expanded on by 10 plus entrepreneurial manufacturers who have been working on this very closely with fishermen and NOAA to try and get it up to be used at a commercial level. It has been tested all over the world and implemented all over the world. Some of this stuff comes from Australia. Canada adopted it right away. We were supposed to adopt it, but it got held up with our politics. Maine, especially, Maine politicians, Susan Collins. Last year we had that big omnibus spending bill. She would not sign it unless they agreed to her rider, which said no regulation on Maine lobster for 10 years. They negotiated down to 6, and we're still getting entangled whale. The problem still very much exists in the U.S., but Canada shut down their lobster fishery or a majority of it unless you use this ropeless technology. And that's what we want, but we need politicians that also support that to make that happen. So this is an image of what ropeless fishing, traditional fishing, pot trap buoy lines look like. So to the whale, you're swimming through a minefield of these ropes, and that's why 85% have been entangled. But again, it's not the fishing that's the problem, it's those end lines. If we could get rid of those, we could remove those end lines, keep the fishers fishing, and we can all live happily ever after, maybe. This is an example of it. So on the left have a ropeless system that's been deployed. So that's a trawl of traps. That's 3 traps connected by a line, and at the end you have a buoy that looks like a coil, and that coil is the buoy, and inside it has some electronics that's basically a listening device, and on the bottom it has a little latch that holds the rope, and it works just like your depth finder or your fish finder. When you're ready to bring it up, you motor over, and you can see the signal being sent down there, still on the left photo. You can only talk to your gear, but it's just listening, and it hears its code. It says, oh, that's me, open. And it just opens the little latch, releases the rope, the buoy floats to the surface. It's positively buoyant, so it's always going to want to float to the surface, and then you fish it like normal. This is how we solve the entanglement problem, and it does work. We worked on commercial fishing boats in 4 different states, 4 different fishers, and they hated it on day 1. By the end of the week, they wanted to buy the gear. Because it also helps reduce gear loss. We have ghost gear added every single year by many fisheries, but trap pot fisheries, they lose gear. 10% in some cases it's up to 20%. This prevents that. When you have a buoy at the surface and you have swell, the swell lifts your buoy up and your trap hops, and it can hop miles away. With the gear stowed all the way at the bottom, your buoy at the bottom on the seafloor, there's no swell lifted up. It stays in place. They didn't even know that till they were doing the testing. But it also ranges, so you can know where your gear is if it does move. So anyway, okay, a few more set photos. This is the number 2 vessel strikes. The only good thing is it's a quicker death, but it is. We have more vessels than ever on the water. 2023, we had record of number of commercial, military, and recreational vessels. We're only increasing that, especially in Florida. 1 million plus registered vessels in Florida. This was Port Canaveral, and this was Halo that Julie was talking about earlier. This is a photo I took from the boat. As we were out there, Julie was talking to the pilots, and the pilots are the ones that steer the boats in and out and control them, and they're really, really good at their job. And when Julie's on the phone with them, they're always doing their absolute best to make sure no one hits a whale. And in most every case so far that we know of, they have not hit a whale. Right here, Port Canaveral. And that was a mom and a calf that made it through just fine with all that, but it took several boats out there. It took someone to call it in the first place. Again, calving grounds, see a whale, please call it in, super important. And that's how we manage it all.
Point out in that photo, because it looks like, I remember the first one that had the dolphins in it. Are the 2 whales in the foreground, the mom and the baby?
So mom is definitely in between, in the middle there. And then the 4 closest to the bottom of the photo is 2 dolphins, and we believe that's the calf's tail flukes to the right.
So the big hump and the dark line is the whale.
That's Big Mama.
That's the mama.
And that's what it's gonna look like from shore too.
And see, that's why I wanted to know this, because
Oh, yeah.
we saw the dolphin in there, and they were all together. And when you're out there, this is a great example of what you might see. But if you're focused on the dolphin, you wouldn't be focused on mama whale, and that's the way to see it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
That is good. We haven't had that pointed out before.
Yes, it's a good point. This is what it looks like from a boat view.
Right.
So, yes.
That's a great example.
Yeah, we get people calling and they're like, do we have submarines out here? And I'm like,
Yes, you do.
sometimes, but I don't think that's what you're looking at. And they'll just see like a black line in the water and they don't know what it is, but they'll call anyway. And I'm like, no, that's a whale. You're not crazy.
And see, several of us live in this area that are here tonight, on that section of the beach.
Yeah.
So this would be what we would be seeing, so this is home for me, so.
Good point, thank you, because that is what this is.
What date this was?
Do you remember what date that was?
It was either January 30th or January 31st
Of
of 2020.
2020?
I'm going to run through these quick. This is our first calf that I already talked about. The first calf of the season was run over by a smaller vessel, 35 to 47 foot. This calf lasted 2 months and then died. This is a very interesting video. This is a 1-year-old whale. That's the red dot. That's Florida. That's Daytona Beach. sort of the bottom half to the left there. And that red dot is Bishop, a 1-year-old right whale. And the blue marks are vessels with AIS. So this is what it's like from the whale's perspective.
Oh my God.
Those are all ports. As far as we know, Bishop is still alive and okay. But this is what these whales travel through. This is why it's so important to call in sightings.
Wow.
This is why we lose so many whales, including all the humpbacks that you've heard about over the last couple of years. If you've heard about that,
No.
that's coming up next here to talk about. But this is the reality, is these whales have to migrate back to their feeding grounds and crisscross our ever-growing traffic from our ports. So
And there are a lot more boats on the water than just what's in that
Yeah.
little video.
those are just ones with live AIS, the live tracking that turn it on. So there's a lot more that's done. Okay, what's been done? You don't have to read all this, but this is an example of when we have a dot on a map at a time. All those dots are whales, and the solid black line is the old shipping channel. And so all these vessels were cruising through where all these whales had historically been, and they lost 17 whales to vessel strikes, roughly 17 in 2017. So they looked at the data, looked at the map, said, what if we just change the shipping lane just a little bit? Guess what? That'll add a teeny bit of time. It'll add a teeny bit of fuel cost, but we save a whole bunch of whales. And they did. They the next year they did that, and they had 0 whale deaths, I believe, in Canada. What else has been done? Reduced vessel speed, 65 and larger. There's going to be a vessel speed rule that you might have heard about now to bring it down to 35 feet. During the calving season, and that's been held up. It's a tough law to get passed, but there's a 500-yard approach law. You are not allowed to be within 500 yards of a North Atlantic right whale. That's a federal law. You can get fined. You have to slowly back away if a whale pops up next to you and you're not anchored. If you're anchored, just stay there. They'll swim away. And don't turn your your motors on. We have seasonal management areas and dynamic management areas. So that means during the season we may slow vessels down. During dynamic areas, when we know there's a whale there, there's alerts that go out to those vessels to, hey, slow down, pay attention. That's also what passive acoustic monitoring is. There's listening devices being installed all over the Atlantic, all over the world, that are listening for whales, listening for all kinds of things. One of those things is whales. So when they hear a whale, no one has to see it. They hear this whale. We know what a humpback sounds like. We know what a right whale sounds like through really good science and research. We understand that now. So now with just a listening device, oh my gosh, there's a whale there. And we have whales spotted every year. You can see these whales on whalemap.org that are spotted by, that are heard, I should say. Then it's us with our aerial surveys and us with our volunteer sighting network. So aerial surveys, like I said, they fly every day that has good weather looking for these animals to report them so they cannot hit them. And then down here from St. Augustine south relies on this Julie's network, the Right Whale Sighting Network. New speed laws are being proposed. They're being held up with lots of money, lots of lobbying, lots of politics. And we are increasing the passive acoustics, but that also requires funding. There wasn't much funding until recently. The Biden administration finally put some more funding towards trying to solve these problems. It's not a lot of money on the big picture, but putting these acoustic devices in, we're learning a lot. We're learning to manage this stuff. We can do our shipping and fishing and military stuff without hurting whales if we know where they are by just listening to them. So we're also getting ready to do it with space, with satellites. They're using cameras to find whales, track whales. That's a really cool, interesting, that's going to be the, believe it or not, cheapest, most effective way from what I've read and what I believe. Obviously getting the satellites up there is expensive, but once they are there, imagine all this time and energy we're putting out. Now you have a camera that can find a whale and report it to a ground station and automatically report it to the vessels nearby. That'll come back in big rewards. So here's another way to remember this. It's not just vessel strikes. Remember, we are in the calving ground. So when we just approach them on our boat or our jet ski or our paddleboard, kayak, whatever, we just want to go see a whale, right? Everyone, it's a once-in-a-lifetime moment to see a whale. But for that whale, it's their 4th, 5th, 6th time. And remember, it's not just a whale, it's the calving ground. So if it's a mom and a calf, think about it as a mom in her living room breastfeeding her baby. And we run up to them and we want to get a photo, but we have this boat with a loud propeller that can cut them up. It also can interfere with their communication. They can't communicate to each other if there's all this noise. So we got to stay away from them, whatever human device it is, we have to stay 500 yards away. That's the law, 5 football fields away. And think about the mom breastfeeding her baby thing. When you realize it's a mom breastfeeding her baby, it really hits home. Like, okay, maybe I won't go up. Here's the kind of behavior we get all the time. This is what happens every single time, basically, if there's humans around. This top left photo is a commercial vessel commercial fisher that's supposed to know the laws. Luckily, they had their name and everything very clear in the photo, so they could easy to get fined. That's again, we're going into their world, and we should understand where we're going. And a lot of commercial guys are told this, given literature, told on the radio, but still don't pay attention to it. Then there's just more bad behavior. Surfers in Cocoa Beach during spring break. These two, the bottom right is surrounding a mom and a calf, so it's even more difficult for them. They don't know where to go when you surround them. I'm going to go through this quick because I'm already at 7 o'clock. Why should we care? Besides that these are amazing sentient animals that are extremely human-like. They have their pectoroflippers have human-like phalange bones, same as ours. Their brain is very similar to humans, except they have an extra lobe that we don't know what it does. It may have a sixth sense that we're not aware of yet. They're extremely intelligent, and their brains are designed. You look at all the animals out there, and mammals, but cetaceans have a very human-like brain. But here's the other thing. If you do like fish or food, they have a lot to do with our food chain. They are the nutrient pump for the entire ocean and really the chemical balance for the entire planet. As they eat through the entire water column, they eat through the surface, through the middle of the water, and down at the bottom, even in the mud. But they can't poop at depth because of pressure. They have to do that at the surface. So they're naturally eating through the entire water column, releasing at the surface, and their poop is fertilizer for phytoplankton. It is the number 1 best ingredient to grow phytoplankton, which sucks CO2 out of our atmosphere. I said that earlier, and we all know all that. We have a ton of CO2 on our atmosphere. Phytoplankton is one of the best ways to pull that out. So the more we have, the better we can pull it out, and whale poop is what fuels that. So it's thought they're a big climate change they're giant stores of carbon, and they take carbon out of the atmosphere into their phytoplankton, which their food eats phytoplankton, then they eat the zooplankton. So it's this whole system that does that. So they capture that CO2, and it's believed that when we started whaling hundreds of years ago, and through measuring ice cores and understanding how much CO2 was in the atmosphere before we could actually measure the atmosphere, it's timing together with when we started whaling. We took tens of thousands of whales out of the ocean. We changed how the dynamics of the chemistry on this planet operate by killing tens of thousands of whales, and our CO2 started increasing. So it's a pretty interesting link. They support phytoplankton growth, store 40% of all carbon. 1% increase in phytoplankton is equal to about 2 billion mature trees. They sequester a ton of CO2. If we put they put a dollar amount on these whales, it's about a $2 million number. Less whales, less phytoplankton, less fish. Phytoplankton is the base food chain for fish also, and everything that small fish, bigger fish, that whole system works. So more whales, more phytoplankton, more fish, more food for people. This is just, when you're really disconnected as a human, this is a statement by one of the congressmen in Maine. Maine's lobster industry is the backbone of the communities. The death of this whale is unfortunate, but we have to be real about trade-offs. I will continue to stand with Maine's lobstermen in the face of any effort to use this incident to justify new mandates that would threaten their livelihoods. So this is a lawmaker's opinion. He's disconnected from what a whale is and how connected we should be to whales, and he won't help with efforts to put ropeless fishing in, or perhaps slow down vessels like our Florida representatives. Rick Scott and Marco Rubio went out really early on the vessel strike rule and put propaganda out. They wrote an opinion piece about how unsafe it will be. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard and many commercial fisheries and boaters are the ones that helped write the vessel speed law, and they have there's no correlation to making it less safe. And there is the vessel speed rules specifically for the entire Atlantic has provisions if you need to go over 10 knots. So, but this is how politics works. This is how people get on board or not on board with things. We look to our leaders to lead us, but sometimes they don't lead us with the right information. Climate change, this could be the number one killer. We really don't know. It's quickly changing our planet. The pace of change is just happening too fast. I already said the Gulf of Maine is already showing it's the warmest. It is the body of water that has warmed the most in the last 10 years. The average temperature. You can look that up. You can look up the cod fishery, the fisheries that have been affected. Ask a fisherman that's up there. It is real. Sea turtle hatcheries. If you haven't heard, our sea turtles that we have record nesting. That's nesting. Unfortunately, our sand temperatures, our beach temperatures are a little bit warmer than they were 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, they were a little bit warmer than they were the previous 10 years. They've only gone up a little bit, but it's been enough to affect their sex. Their sex is temperature dependent. We're getting 99 to 100% females coming out of all these nests. So that does not bode well. So climate change is a big, giant thing. This I'll go through real quick. If you've heard of this, it's still pumped out. It is that wind turbine construction and sonar to find where to put these wind turbines is contributing to all the humpback whale deaths that have been occurring over the last 2 years. This even got us off guard. We were like, oh gosh, is that real? And then when you think about these are baleen whales, they don't use sonar like toothed whales do, like dolphins. There's a lot to this. A lot of facts that if you understand whales and how they work, that this doesn't really, the sonar they use is less than what we use for oil and gas. It's less than construction. It doesn't add up. It was disinformation. And in fact, there was a documentary made about this, and it was proven to be paid for by the oil and gas industry. So this is the stuff that's been pumped out there. These were real headlines: Biden whale extinction, and then wind turbines killing whales. New documentary proves building offshore wind turbine kills whales. That there is no proof at all whatsoever. In fact, all the proof points to the opposite. That no, this sonar that they're using does not affect whales. When they pound the cement blocks into the sand or mud, they use wind curtains or air curtains around them that blocks the sound from coming out. They've done that since Norway was doing wind turbines. So, but that got way out into the public. It still is pumped out occasionally. They used our whale Pilgrim's calf that died right here. They used that on Fox News just about a month ago as the lead story into wind turbine construction killing whales, when this whale is nowhere near any wind turbine construction. This whale was in Florida, not Virginia, not New Jersey. But I recorded the whole thing. I tweeted out to Martha McCallum, have you had a real scientist? And they don't. So it's very frustrating, but it's fake. This is real quick. Why no mention of the number one cause of death? Why no mention entanglement and fishing gear? We know those are the number one causes. Why no mention of the climate change issue? Why no mention that oil and gas sonic air gun blasting, which is what they say they do for wind, that's not what they do for wind, is 200 plus decibels. The wind survey sonar is 80 to 100 decibels. They don't tell you the full story. They only tell you these little headlines. So they also claim that all of us people working with whales are paid by the wind industry. I know what Julie makes.
Or by Noah.
Or Noah, this is nonsense. That is not true. I'm a volunteer. I go to all the stuff. I learn as much as I can. It's not true. USA Today followed a bunch of this money and found out that that documentary called Thrown to the Wind was actually paid for by the American fuel and petrochemical manufacturers. They have not commented. They pulled down all their comments that they did put up on the documentary and left the documentary. So this is normal. This is the world we live in. There's misinformation, disinformation campaigns that make millions of people misinformed. So hope. Yes, we can have hope. We have 19 calves this year. We should not have had 19 calves. We should only have 5 or 6. Do they know they're going extinct? Probably not. Did they find food and get really healthy and reverse the trend that was going to tell us that they're only going to have 5 or 6 calves? Maybe. We have a lot more time and studying to figure that out. But this should give us hope. We had 19 calves. Yes, 4 were killed. I don't mean to, it's just, but yeah, we can have hope. These animals do come back. Anyway, we're done with that part. Now, as far as if you'd like to become a volunteer, Captain Ahab retired, and he lives in Satellite Beach now, and he's on our program. And this was a funny comic Julie found in the Florida Today many years ago. Har, there be a whale, 2 spouts it has. 'Tis a right whale to be sure. So 2 spouts, remember the V-shaped blow. So to become a whale spotter, all you got to do is take this test. If you point your phone at that, or I can help you, but then a little test will come up and you'll answer questions and put your email and your phone number in. Your phone number is how you get put onto our call list, to where if we do have a whale here, you can get called so that you can come out and watch whales with us and hopefully talk to people and explain what's going on, explain about the right whales. So with that, I'm done. I have one slide that shows our sponsors, but I'll let you do this for a while, and I can gladly answer any questions you may have.
What was the typical life expectancy of a right whale?
The natural, what was the natural life?
We unfortunately really don't know. Most all of these whales are dying well before they reach that, whatever that number is. It's really crazy, but that is really what's happening. They're dying at the hands of, they're dying rapidly. We're losing like 35 a year on average. It's unreal, like the total number that we lose. So they have a cousin whale called the bowhead whale, which can live up to 200 years or older. Kind of like the Greenland shark. They live in really cold waters. The Greenland shark lives 400 years, doesn't get reproductive until 100 years old. So they are very closely related to the bowhead whale. They are genetically different, but they look similar, and they are very, very close, and those whales live to be 200. And they live in a place where there's not much human activity.
I didn't bring my phone because I didn't think it was polite, in case
Oh.
it rang or
She's got
something.
paper test.
That I can, make a
Julie's got
thing
a
of that?
paper test,
Okay.
to the rescue.
Oh, instead of signing up.
Yeah, you can do the paper test.
Yeah,
Joel,
we
I've got
prefer digital, but it doesn't.
Joel,
Well,
I've got
I
a
mean,
question
just
on
text me the code.
the length of the whales, like the right whales, when they're born, about how big are they? And then when they're full grown, about how big are they?
Yes, great question. The question is, how big are these whales as adults and when they're born? So when they're born, they're 15 feet long at birth. Mom gives birth to a 15-foot long baby, and the whale weighs around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. And then that whale will, the calf will, if mom is healthy and nursing and everybody's healthy, then that calf typically doubles its weight in 1 month. And then as far as adults go, adults are up to 52 feet long. 52 feet long, the 5th largest whale on the planet, 52 feet long, 70 to 80 tons. They are very large animals. Yes, sir.
Joel, forgive me if you already said this, but what was the depth that they could dive to?
Good question. So the question is, how deep can they dive? We don't know we know they can dive at least 600 feet. So they've been observed diving in the Bay of Fundy or the Gulf of Maine, or the Gulf of Maine, at the 600-foot depth level, and they're coming up with mud, fresh mud on their head. And so we know they can dive at least 600 feet. But as far as total depth, we don't know. We aren't able to attach tags. They're working on a lot of cool stuff to learn a lot more of that kind of behavior, but there's not, these animals, since they don't have a dorsal fin, there's not a lot of ways to attach a tag to them. So they're using suction cup tags, but they don't stay on very long. They've had fat tags, which are a tag that looks like it's got barbs on it, so you shoot it into the whale, and it's invasive, so it sticks into their fat, but the animal is 12 inches of fat. That's why they have so much oil. So that fat does not hold the tag very long, plus the way they swim and flex, the tags come out. So they stopped doing that mostly with right whales because it was too invasive. They can get an infection. So, but one of the people we work with, Center for Coastal Studies and Ocean Alliance, is doing amazing drone stuff, and they're dropping from a drone, they're dropping tags, suction cup tags, onto the whale, and then that tag stays for a while, and they're learning dive behavior and some other stuff. There's still a lot we don't know, but good question.
Even if I fail, would you consider?
Any other questions, or if you have any test questions,
I definitely fail. Thank you if I didn't do that.
The paper version is double-sided, just so you know.
if anybody has a test question that I did not go over, you can ask it.
Okay.
Everybody else.
How far south did the right whales go?
It goes all the way around.
Yes, so they have been known to go all the way around Florida and into the Gulf.
Okay, so I got that right. Any time of the day, I never heard what time of day was good to sight them.
So that's a trick question, sort of, because basically if it's daylight out, you have a good chance of seeing a whale. If it's dark out, you're probably not going to see the whale. So any daylight hours.
Any time of day.
There's a couple of
Any time of day.
any time of day.
So it's true.
So we've
Because
had people
they-
say, should I go out early in the morning? Is it better to see them in the afternoon? I'm like, no. I mean, we take
Anytime.
calls at 7:30 in the morning, we'll take calls at 4:45 in the
Okay.
evening, so
Any time of day.
we're close to shore during daylight hours.
You know, I went down to Magdalene Bay and saw a gray whale. Maybe it was humpback, I forget. You know, they go down there to calf. And the
What bay did
moms
you?
were- Huh?
What did you say? What bay was it?
Magdalena,
Magdalena.
Baja Peninsula.
Oh, Baja, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably gray whales.
Those moms bring their calves up to the boat. Some of them do. They're so proud of them. And they don't know how to swim or breathe underwater when they're first born, do they? Or they have to teach them how?
No, usually mothers will push them to the surface for their
Aw.
first breath.
You should have seen, you could almost understand the communication that was going on between the mom and the kid, you know? It's amazing. Anyway,
That's on my trip list. She did that trip a couple years ago too, where they come right up next to you, and they're all conditioned for boats, which is maybe not good, but it's working out. They all use the whale sense stuff, and don't they organize it so that they're not mobbing them, and we're gonna do it. It's inevitable, and it's a tourism trap thing, and it also teaches people about whales. And I'm a believer that if you've never seen a whale before, it's a lot harder. If you see a whale, it's a lot easier to protect them. You just form that
Yeah.
little bond with them. So
right, because I didn't even go down there to see whales necessarily, you know, we were kayaking around all over the place. And
Mm.
it's like, oh, by the way, whale watch. And it was life-changing. Anyway,
this is our last slide. This is our sponsors, the Florida whale license plate.
Good to know.
Even though that is a humpback whale tail, you can take a black marker and
Color it in.
illegally mark up your license plate.
We actually know somebody that did that.
The Sea of Change Foundation did a grant to help do signs. Port Canaveral is always a sponsor.
Good.
And I am at Joel Likes to Photo. I'm a sponsor also. with timing.
Very huge in-kind sponsor.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Zach?
Alright, do you guys have like, publicly available signage that the city could use at like public crossovers that we could mount? 'Cause we don't
It's
have
funny
like.
you said that,
In fact, I was
because
thinking,
that's what we wanted to talk to you
Because
about.
Yes.
the
We've been
signage-
designing one.
just
Oh,
like
yeah.
the Manatee Club did years ago in the rivers, that warned you of manatees and the like and how to identify them
Right.
Right.
at the port for all the outgoing fishermen, because there's
Right.
a lot of
Well, and all of
amateur
our
fishermen.
sea turtle signs, I mean, our mayor, Wes Morrison, said, we have 17 beach walks that we could put those signs, and he was all for it.
Awesome.
So,
I'm anxious to talk
so,
to
yeah,
whoever
Morrison
about
said
it.
that when we talked to him about.
I think we
doing
should do a
this.
dual sign, or, I don't know, this is where
Yeah.
we get different organizations wanna do different stuff, but from a city perspective, you wanna talk about all of it, right? And
I mean, we need to know if there are size limitations.
So we're
Things like
currently
that.
drafting new signage for the beach ends that'll probably roll out next year. They're quite large. They do not include language for right whales. They include language for sea turtles and other things. So if you wanna give us an additional sign, I'd be happy to find space to put it up in the
Cool.
crossover.
Cause that yellow one
that'd be great.
will look like, the yellow one that I saw, that one looked,
Yeah.
that one looked like such a good one. It had great information, but it was short and sweet.
Before we leave, I'll show you a picture of the one that we've been working on.
Oh, good.
See what you think.
And pay attention to the phone number on that test, that's what I was gonna say. The
Oh,
phone
yeah.
number question,
It's not.
pay attention to that one, it's another tricky one. It's 888-979, whatever. You got it. But yeah, the signs are great, that's great. We have so many new people.
After you finish, then I hit done, and then it says review answers.
Yeah.
So do I hit review answers?
Only if you
send
wanna
it?
know how many you got right, I think.
Yeah, hit review answers and then submit.
Okay,